Hi there, welcome to Mountain Tribe Homestead. My name is Amberly, and in this video I'm going to take you along and take you through the process of what seeds I'm getting ready to start and what seeds we've started, and kind of talk about my process of starting my garden. So here I am just under my house in the crawl space picking out some of the pepper seeds that we are getting ready to start on this day. So my seeds are stored in my crawl space. It stays cool under there, and I just put some moisture packs in the totes to keep them from getting any moisture in there. Hot peppers. I always do a few jalapeno plants, and that's the only hot pepper I'm going to do this year. But I have other ones, but I'm only going to do maybe a few of these. I want to do cowboy candy this year, but there's a specific salsa that I like to make with jalapenos in it, and I would like to make some cowboy candy. So I'm just going to do a few of those this year. Let me set this over here. Hold on. And then I've got just my regular peppers in this. Oh my gosh, it won't open in this guy. So I have some purple bell peppers, orange bell peppers, and then I have some California Wonders. I ended up ordering some California Wonders from two different places. I forgot that I ordered them, and I ended up ordering them again. And then I also forgot that I had these already, and these were not in the spot they were supposed to be, and I ended up finding these from last year. I ended up finding these in a different spot, just kind of tucked away and shoved, and that's how things go when I'm in the busy season of things. I just typically have a hard time remembering to put things back where they go. Now I know where my kids get it, right? So I'm not planting all of these seeds because this right here is 50 in itself. That would be way too much. So I'm going to plant these. I mean, they're all bell peppers. I don't know how many of each I want. I definitely want a few of these. Probably 3 of these, but the rest of them I'm going to want orange and the California Wonder. But these are going to be the most of my pepper plants in my gardens this year. And then just a few of these and the jalapenos. And then we're going to go inside and we are going to get the seeds planted. And I'm just going to do a voiceover for this part of the video because inside my house can be kind of chaotic and loud with my dogs in the background playing and making noise and barking, and it just gets loud. So we are starting the pepper plants, and I've got the 16-year-old and the 7-year-old getting the soil mixture together and putting it into the cells for the pepper seeds. I know that there is a faster way to do this. It's just the 7-year-old likes to really get her hands in the dirt, and sometimes it takes her a little longer to do things, but she loves this, and I just let her go ahead and do it. The 14-year-old is my succulent girl, so she's got her cactus and succulent soil, and she is repotting some of her succulents that have gotten too big and overgrown, and then she's transplanting babies out of the bigger pots into the smaller pots. And when we go vending this spring and summer and fall, her goal has been to nurture these plants throughout the cold months and take the babies off of them and sell them during the warmer months. So as you can see, the bigger parts have gotten pretty tall, and she's taking the babies and transplanting them into smaller pots to sell them in the future. She's just getting them, that way she has time to get them nice and established before the warmer months, and they can sit out on the table to get sold. But she's my succulent girl. Her room has succulent plants all over it. She loves it. So that's our cat Dharma. She's enjoying having the dirt, sniffing around in the dirt. So I'm fully aware that there are 72 cells in this tray, and that is a lot of pepper plants. There's absolutely no way I am going to have that many pepper plants and use all of it. We have 2 trays of soil. I figured while we got the mess out, we're just going to go ahead and fill in that second tray so it's ready to go when I'm ready to put seeds in the second tray. But this tray we are filling full of pepper plants. It's not all for me. Like I said a few minutes ago, I go vending during the spring and summer and fall, and during the spring I would like to have some baby plants to sell. I have products that we sell and we hand make that we sell all year long, but during certain seasons of the year there are other products that we like to sell just tailored to that season. And so during the springtime I would like to have baby plants to sell. And so anytime we sow any seeds, we are going to be sowing lots of extra so that we can bring along baby plants at the events that we are going to sell. So we've got all of the seeds are getting planted. The 16-year-old did the jalapeno seeds because last time the 7-year-old did the jalapeno seeds last year, she forgot to wash her hands before she started touching her face, and the oils from the hot pepper got all over her face and it just burned. She was not happy. So she does not want to be a part of any spicy peppers whatsoever. So she's doing the bell peppers, and her 16-year-old sister did the jalapeno seeds for her. So normally when I start seeds, I like to get the soil nice and soaked with water so it's already wet, and it allows the seeds to germinate easier, I think, through my years and experience. That's what I've found. Unfortunately, I didn't do it with this batch because the tray that goes underneath of these cells that holds the water, that helps keep it the water intact and not dripping all over the shelves inside the house, that tray cracked and I can't find another one. So until we can get some trays delivered, we're just watering them with the spray bottle until then, and that's going to do the job just fine. We've done that in years past and it's worked just fine. We just have to spray them a few extra times during the day. Whereas with a tray, you just keep the bottom water, you can water it with the bottom, and the water soaks up through the soil and keeps the soil moist so it doesn't dry out. And sitting on the heat mats, it's definitely going to be drying out quicker. So here's the 14-year-old. She's got a lot of her babies transplanted. You can see that she's got quite a few babies there. Little succulent babies. They're all different kinds of succulents. I don't know anything about succulents. That's all her. She knows how to take care of them. I'm not educated on taking care of succulents, and they don't do a very good job when I take care of them. But she's got them, and they're thriving, and they look happy, and they've grown and producing babies, and so she knows what to do. She's the succulent professional in the house. So, moving on to potatoes. I am going to be using these egg cartons. We have extra laying around because our hens are not laying eggs as frequently. So we have all these extras that I can use up to use for other purposes. And I'm going to use these for potatoes. I'm going to set the potatoes in there, and I'm just labeling the tops of the egg cartons just so that I don't get confused of which potatoes are where. I'm going to be doing russet potatoes, and then I'm also doing, I think it's called German yellow, I can't remember, or German golden, I'm not sure. So anyways, normally I would not be starting potatoes to sprout this early. So let me go ahead and explain why I'm going to go ahead and start these earlier than I normally would. Normally I wouldn't do this until the end of April. Or, I'm sorry, the beginning of April. So I live on the side of a mountain, and our ground is more rock than it is dirt. So I need to plant my potatoes in containers. And planting them in containers also makes it able for me to move the containers around. So a benefit of that is that I have a greenhouse now this year, a functioning greenhouse. It's not heated, but it is enough coverage from the outside, and it does keep the temperature above higher than what the outside temperature is. And by planting them in movable containers, I'm going to be able to go ahead and get my potatoes started a little sooner and have those containers in my greenhouse. And then as the temperature warms up, I'll be able to move those containers out of the greenhouse and into the garden where I want them. As you can see, these potatoes are sprouting a little bit, so that's why I'm going ahead and gonna try to get these guys well established before I get them planted into their containers. And so I've got 12 russets and 6 German yellow. Again, I'm not all the way certain that that's what they're called, but whatever they are, I've got 6 of them, and they're yellow potatoes. And they all have little sproutlets on them. So I'm gonna put these on a shelf in my home by a window, and that sunlight that's going to hit them is going to create those sprouts to grow even more. And once those sprouts have grown a bit more, I'm going to cut them off and harden off the open sides before I put them into the dirt. So we've went through and talked about pepper seeds and the potatoes and planted the pepper seeds. I'm not going to plant everything in this video, but I will talk about what we're getting ready to plant and take you through my process. This little thing right here is a great little tool that you can use if you're just getting started, or if you feel a bit overwhelmed or trying to expand in the items that you're growing. This is an awesome tool. It's got a bunch of common things to grow on the side there. The red line shows your average last spring frost date, and you just slide that over to, if you look at the top, there's months and days there, and you line that red line up to your last frost date, and it gives you all sorts of information on this little chart. You've got your average soil temperature for each of these vegetables. You've got there's the average soil temperature. And then once you get that red line lined up, it tells you which dates are the best to sow your seeds inside. So it's got the SI there that tells you when to sow your seeds inside, and then it's got the FP that tells you when to put your first plants outside in the garden, and then the green check marks are all different estimated harvest dates for those plants. So this little chart here is just such a useful, helpful tool for anybody, even, an experienced gardener, someone starting out, or an experienced gardener. It's super helpful. So it's not expensive. I think they are on back order right now, but if this is something that you're interested in, I can put the link below. It even has on the side here like companion plants, and then if you flip it over, it tells you the fall. And so this is the fall side, and the red line on this side is your average last fall date. And you line that up, and then it tells you when to plant. So I can put the link for this down below in the description. I am not going to make any money or benefit off of anyone buying this from clicking on the link. It's just a good tool that I think would be super useful. And I just keep it in my garden planner so it's ready to go. Alright, so moving on to some other seeds that we are going to be getting started in the next few weeks. Not everything is recommended to get started this early in my zone. I'm at the very northern peak of Virginia, and so some of these it's recommended to wait a few weeks, but because I have a greenhouse, it's just going to allow me to start them a little sooner. So I'm going to be growing broccoli this year, and I'm going to be growing broccoli rabe, which I've never had, but I love to eat it. So that's going to be a new experiment. I meant to already start this kale when we sowed our lettuce seeds, but I don't know why I didn't pull it out. I saw it when I was grabbing these seeds and I was like, oh, I need to get those started. So I pulled that out. I've pulled out the carrots. I've got a variety of carrots. I love having a variety. This black nebula, I've never had that, but it just looked really pretty. It's like a really dark purpley color, and I've got a couple free seed packets that from last year with some leftover seeds, and I'm gonna get some of those in the ground. Well, in their containers, not in the ground, because same thing with the potatoes. I can't grow the carrots in the ground. So I just have a variety of carrots, and I'm not planting I'm not planting all of the seeds. I'm just planting some of the seeds from each packet. So that's the carrot container. And the next one I'm going to show you is tomatoes. I have a little bit of an obsession with growing tomatoes. The amount of tomato seeds in this thing is a bit ridiculous, so don't judge me. I'm not growing all of these seeds, but there's a huge variety of tomatoes. I love having all different types of tomatoes. So the mortgage lifter tomato I've never grown that. I've heard lots of good things about it, but it's supposed to be huge, so that's exciting. I've also got these seeds that I saved last year from the tomatoes. The Roma, yellow, pear tomatoes, black Tula, and pink lady tomatoes. I love pink lady tomatoes. I love them for cooking and slicing. The flavor's awesome, and they're just so beautiful. So I've got classic beefsteak, and just such a huge variety of tomatoes. A lot of these are really just pretty cool looking tomatoes, and that's literally the reason that I probably bought a lot of these, but I wish they all had pictures on there. I do have one in this little pile, like purple bumblebee. Doesn't that sound awesome? I'm sure it was pretty. I know on the website when I ordered these, it has pictures of all these tomatoes, and they all just looked really cool. So I'm going to grow one or two of each of these, and then most of my tomatoes are going to be the tomatoes that I use for canning and slicing and whatnot. But as you can see in each package, there's not very many seeds. So see this Cosmic Eclipse tomato? This is from that same company, and they have these little inserts that they're going to start putting in all of their seeds, but they only had it for this one when I ordered, and it has the picture on there, and isn't that a cool looking tomato? Cosmic Eclipse. They all look really cool. And then they sent me some free seeds. The Cherokee Purple. And so I'm also going to be growing the Roma tomatoes and the Amish paste tomatoes, and just the regular tomatoes I grow every year. I grow a huge variety every year, but the majority of what I grow is the same every year, and I just add extra plants for the fun of it. Because I need to enjoy what I'm growing as well, and new experiences and little projects, and just makes it more interesting, I think. So these seeds are called ground cherry seeds, and I grew these last year for the first time, and they were really fun to grow. I saved a bunch of them too, but not anybody in the house really liked them other than me, and I didn't like them enough to eat a whole bunch of them, so I'm just gonna grow one plant this year. Other than that, if I grow any more, I might start some little plants and maybe sell some, or take some seeds and sell them, or if anyone wants to do a seed exchange, send me a message and we can exchange some seeds. So these are my loofahs and gourds. I'm going to be doing lots of loofahs this year and some gourds last year I tried to grow them, but I struggled with them last year. I've grown them in the past with great success, but last year I struggled, so we're going to try them again this year. I don't grow those every year. I try to grow them up and stock up on them. So that box right there just has stevia. So I'm also growing some herbs, some extra herbs. I grew stevia last year. Marshmallow seeds, I tried to start those last year and they didn't do very well. The stevia did, and then the yarrow, I started that last year and it did really well. I'm going to add some more plants, but that's what I am planning to get started in the next couple of weeks. And so during our weekly videos, you'll see us starting seeds here and there. I went to go put those seeds on the shelf and I forgot that I pulled these out and wanted to get them started too, but they weren't in the boxes, they were somewhere else. And so I had them sitting in this container with all my little plant markers. I've got those plastic ones and then I've got these little metal ones that are really cool because you just write on them and it indents the word into the little metal. I think it's metal or aluminum, I'm not sure. And so the writing doesn't wipe off because it's indented into there. But anyways, these are some of the seeds that we're going to start as well. I'm going to get started some chives and some parsley and some basil. Those are the other few herbs that I wanted to get started in the next few weeks as well, that I completely forgot that I put into this little container here. Okay, let's go through my process of how I figure out what I'm going to plant, when I'm going to plant it, and how much I'm going to plant it. I have a garden planner and I used this one last year. It still has some room in it, so I'm going to also use it for this year. And this is where I keep track of notes and everything for each year so I can reference it the next year. I printed this off from an offgridlife.com and it has a whole garden planner that have wonderful pages, but I am the person that ended up not using it because I just need to get everything out of my brain onto a paper, and I a lot of times don't have the remembrance to go get the actual pages I printed off. So first I start off with my goals and I figure out what are my goals? What do I want to preserve and how much of it? What do we actually eat? So I have the categories of pints and quarts and frozen, and how much of each thing do I want to preserve in those sizes. And a lot of this is also based off of how much room I have in my pantry where we store our food or in our freezer. I would love to have much more than this preserved, and hopefully I do, but these goals right here that I have down, I wrote down the bare minimum, and hopefully we can exceed that and surpass it. So I have the plant type, and the plant location and the number of plants, and I just figure all of that out, which plants I need to plant. And then next to each plant, I figure out how many pounds per plant does each one produce. And then that can help me figure out how many plants I need to plant. It will also help me figure out how many pounds per tomatoes goes into a quart or into my sauces. And it's a lot of math, and it's just a lot of math to figure it out and going back and forth. But I've got the plants, I've got the number of plants that I need, and I've already got my garlic started. I started that in the fall, but like I said before, we can't plant in the ground, so these garlics and onions are planted in baby pools, little circular baby pools, and they're just out in the garden, and I have some in my greenhouse, but that's where they go because I can't plant in the ground because of the voles and all of that. And so I've got my number of plants here, and that will help me figure out, when I'm planning out my garden and what's going where, how much space I need. And sometimes I have to go back and forth with figuring out, okay, well, I need this many plants, but I don't have that much space. So then I need to figure out, can I put them in pots or whatever? So this is kind of just my process of where I start. So my handwriting is not the best, and it's not perfect and picture perfect and everything, so try not to judge me, but it is what it is, and this is just what I do. So the next thing I do is I figure out, okay, what's the first frost date and what is the last frost date? And how many days is our growing season? Our first frost date is usually the beginning of May, but I moved it up a few weeks because I do have that greenhouse, and so that's going to give me an extended growing season. So once I figure all of that out, then I can go through with each of the plants that I'm going to be growing, and I write all those down. And then I go and write down, when do I put them in the ground? When do I start the seeds? When do, how much sun are they required to grow? And when I start them, do I start them from seeds or do I just start them from the plant? And so I get all of this figured out, and it's more math, more calculations, and get my calendar out and count back from the frost date. And that's where that Clyde's garden planner tool that I showed you, this is where that really comes in handy. It helps calculate that out for you. So I've just got all of this figured out, and see, I have it written down where I'm putting the plants outside on this date. I'm putting the seeds in I'm sowing the seeds inside. And so I detail it all out. And then on the bottom here, wrote down when I'm planting, what veggie I'm planting, and the number of harvests I can get. And if I planted on those dates, then these are the dates that I can expect to harvest. So the first planting, I would do that because sometimes you have multiple harvests. And so I would have a first planting, and then I would have a harvest. And after that harvest, I can plant another crop. All right, this next part, please don't judge me. I very much am a person that when I have something in my mind, I need to hurry up and get it on paper. And so I just dump it out on paper, and it is not the prettiest. So this is going to be my little drawing of my garden laid out, and it's not completely accurate with size and whatever. It's just another like estimation of what is going to be going where. And it's not necessarily like the right amount of plants are going there. But anyways, this is the big back corner garden. If you watched my garden tour, you would have seen that this garden is huge back there. And so I need to dig that dirt up, and I actually need to put hardware cloth down so that I can prevent the voles from coming back into that garden. This is the big garden where the well is, and we're going to be putting beans and peppers there. That's our strawberry garden that's in the tire. And then the carrots are going to be going along that back corner of the fence, and I'm going to try to put a pumpkin in the container there. That garden is where the garlic is. I've got these new gardens over here. These haven't been put together yet, but these are where I would like to put some herbs and tomatoes and broccoli. These circles are where I'm going to be putting potatoes in the movable containers. This is the new garden that we are currently working on putting together, and we just need to get some hardware cloth down before we put the soil and compost in there. So that whole corner right there this is what I would like it to look like. And all along this fence line here, I'm going to have containers that I'm going to be growing butternut squash in. I did that last year, growing up a fence in a container, and it did really, really, really well. So I'm going to do it again this year. That's the door, and this is the garden that goes along the rest of the fence line next to the swimming pool with the garlic, and the garden that is going to have peppers in it. The big garden in the center, I'm going to put tomatoes, and this is just what my thought in my head is, and I've just had to put it on paper real fast. So this is what my garden looks like right now, and my goal is to expand the garden. And so, like again, just reiterating that this is not a perfect drawing and it is what it is. But there is a fence line that runs right here currently. And the plan is to take this fence line and cut it off right here and move it to the back. So we take that back fence line and extend it along these trees, stopping here and coming down and forming like an extra triangle. My 7-year-old has 2 slides right here, and there's a little hill, and so she goes up little steps and goes down these slides, and I didn't want to take that away from her. So this is the triangle that we are going to add into the garden. And we have the garden that'll go along the back, and then a new garden that's going to go through the center, and a little triangle garden. And that is just my goal of what I would like to do with that extension. And there's a hill that goes up. It goes uphill kind of here. So these new gardens are going to be kind of up higher up on a hill. And it drops off along the edge there. So this is what my plans are. It's not picture perfect, but it is what it is, and it works for me. Oh, and these 2 little marks here are tree stumps that we have yet to take out, and I'm just letting them sit there and just sit there. They're not in my way. They're feeding the ground, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So these are my plans, and this was my process, and I hope that it helps you guys. Like I said, I'm somebody who just kind of takes everything in my mind and puts it on paper really fast, and I don't have time to go back and make it picture perfect and pretty. But there's a little drawing my 7-year-old did. It's cute. But this is who I am, and this is how I do things, and I'm okay with it because it has worked perfectly well for me for years. So this is it for this video. I hope that it helped you guys out somehow on your garden journey. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you again next time, friends. Bye.